And we're back. And we're talking about sound in art. Sound is critical in television, movies, and animation. For example, the voices of famous actors like The Rock and Moana are key elements in the success of feature-length animated movies. By contrast, as Japanese anime has become very popular in America, the quality of the English language dubs are vital to the enjoyment of the animated experience. A good dubbing can bring the characters to life, but a bad one can be grating on the ears. And if you've never seen a bad dubbing job, you're welcome.
Cheers! Cheers! You're so good. Hey, kids! Y'all all here? That's... It's funny as shit. Drunken Sergeant switches from alcohol to milk.
By the way, this is a real movie.
You look like a baby. Like baby oil. Y'all wearing underwear now? Or Pampers? Aw, so cute. Hot feet. I drink the milk too. Oh shit, he's coming. Move away, you. This way. Yeah, you. This way. Sergeant's making a very serious face. I mean, very serious. Sergeant, drink, drink, drink.
Oh my God. Father!
Oh, Dad, it's so good.
Hooray!
Hooray!
You're a winner.
Many artists incorporate non-verbal sounds into their work too. One of my favorite examples is Nick Cave, who's a Chicago-based artist. And he creates these sound suits, which you see on the screen here. I'm gonna click on this link and we can listen to what Nick Cave has to say about his inspiration for the suits.
My background's art, focused fiber textiles and modern dance. So it's thinking about how to sort of bring these two disciplines together. I went into the park and collected all the twigs off the ground, and that was my first suit. Not even really thinking at the beginning that I could physically get in it. I thought I was making a costume that was more of a sculptural object. I didn't know it was a sound suit until I actually put it on, and then realized through moving in it, this rustle sound came about from the twigs hitting up against each other. So that's how sound suit came about. This was one sound suit. Well, wonder if there was 50 sound suits. What makes people happy? What makes them step outside of their day-to-day existence and be light within a moment?
Artist Namjoon Paik also loved to play around with sound in art, nonverbal sound, as well as media in the gallery. So we're going to watch this piece that he created called TV Cello, in which he orchestrated a performance where he has a cello player, Charlotte Mormon, seen here, perform with his sculpture, which was made out of a combination of TVs stacked upon each other with cello strings attached. you get the idea. Like Nick Cave and Alexander Calder, Jean Tinguely was interested in sound as well as kinetic sculpture or moving sculpture. He would create these machines that performed in the gallery, making sounds with the motion of the sculpture. We've talked before about implied motion, implied time. We can also talk about implied sound, and that would be a depiction that suggests sound but is actually silent. So I think the scream is probably the best example of that. This artifact depicts the suggestion of sound without actually making sound. By positioning the figure prominently in the composition, we can tell by the body position, the swirling lines of color, and the fact that he has his mouth wide open with his hands on either side of his face, that he's emanating some sort of horrific sound. Other artists create paintings meant to evoke silence, like Robert Rauschenberg's white paintings from 1951. Rauschenberg intended for these white paintings to be a kind of participatory art. So when visitors walk in front of them, they cast shadows onto their white surfaces. So instead of thinking of these as blank canvases, they're more so backdrops for an interplay of light and shadow. And they impacted the composer, the musical composer, John Cage. He was influenced by the visual arts in many ways, and in turn, he had an influence on visual artists. The year after Rauschenberg's white paintings were created, John Cage wrote this piece of music for the piano called 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And the title says it all. It's 4 minutes and 33 seconds of complete silence. The sheet music, as you can see, doesn't have any musical notes or anything. So the idea is that the ambient sounds that take place during that 4 minutes and 33 seconds, random person coughing, somebody shuffling their feet, maybe a siren in the background, those all just become part of the musical piece, just as the passing shadows became a part of Rauschenberg's piece. Now, I don't have any video of John Cage performing this song, but I do have an example of a contemporary pianist performing this song. So he puts his timer up there, so he knows exactly when the 4 minutes and 33 seconds are over. He shut the case that covers the keys, and he sits. And now the piece is over. He lifts the cover, revealing the keys again, stops his timer, and the piece is done. About this piece, John Cage wrote, "Actually, what pushed me into it was not guts, but the example of Robert Rauschenberg, his white paintings. When I saw those, I said, oh yes, I must. Otherwise, I'm lagging. Otherwise, music is lagging." That is all for today in terms of words and sounds. If you have any questions at all during the week, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next week.